So hello from Green-Mopeds. Today we're going to take out the Kollter ES1-S Pro for a bit of a spin to give you a feel for how it rides. If we cover off the names first, we have actually done a static review on our YouTube channel if you want to actually have a look around the bike, but just to recap some of the things. As you can see from beneath me there, it says Artisan on it. Artisan are the UK importer of this bike. Kollter are the manufacturer. So as you'll see going around the bike, there's an oil tank that says Kollter. That is the actual brand name of the manufacturer. And there's also another brand called Tinbot, which is the German importer, but they're all the same. So Kollter, Artisan or Tinbot ES1-S Pro is the same bike. The first thing to say about this bike is obviously power. So with two batteries, and bearing in mind you can, or you used to be able to get this bike with one battery, with two batteries this bike has a maximum power of 11 kilowatts. So it's pretty powerful in terms of other bikes that are around. TC Max is 5, NIU's 5, maybe a similar bike is a Torrot, which has 6. So it is pretty well up there in terms of maximum power. Continuous power is 5 kilowatts though. Again, that's more than all of the others I've just mentioned. So you would think this bike would actually fly, and we'll hopefully get some roads where we can test that out. But just to come back to some of the other stats. So this bike is just over 2 meters long, which is quite a long bike, especially compared to other electric bikes that are Chinese based. They usually are sort of on the small side, but this one, yeah, 2.08 meters. Its weight with both batteries loaded is about 137 kilos. Okay, so there's two batteries under the seat, both removable. But they both weigh, they weigh 11 kilos each, so 22 kilos for both of them. And cleverly what Kollter have done is daisy chained them together, so they are actually being used in a combined capacity, not like a TC, Supersoco TC, where you're actually using them one after the other. This is actually combining the power from both of the batteries, and that's essentially how you're getting your 11 kilowatts max. Okay, range of this bike with both batteries is said to be about 70 miles, so 35 miles each battery, if you like. So if you took out one battery and just ran it with one battery, which you can do, you'd get about 35 miles on it, which if you look at these batteries, the size of them and shape, they are actually very similar to Supersoco batteries. The actual casing pretty much looks identical, and in fact they do say, Kollter on their website, that the battery manufacturer that they use does supply batteries to both Supersoco or Vimoto and NIU, so it's no surprise. But they aren't Panasonic. That's possibly one thing to mention, or LG for that matter. They're a Chinese brand. So as you can see from the dash, it's saying that I have 90% of battery left. When you turn this bike on, it will calculate or work out whether you've got one or two batteries loaded. Okay, so even though there's only one bar there, it is for both batteries. As you can see from the dash, there's a little 24 degrees centigrade on the right hand side there. That is actually the battery temperature and not the temperature. It is also an interesting choice about this bike in terms of how it actually comes and the uses of it. So this bike has 17-inch road wheels on it by default when you buy it. However, you can turn it into an off-road bike. Okay, so I guess the nearest comparison would be a Sur-Ron, where you actually, you know, you've got a bike that's capable of going on and off-road. You know, they've made the suspension as such. They've got the ability to add chunky tyres onto it, etc., etc. But with this bike, you basically get not two bikes for the price of one, but if you want the off-road version of this bike, you buy the off-road pack. So the off-road pack is £395, and it's essentially a set of new wheels. So there is a 21-inch front wheel with chunky tyres, and there's a 18-inch rear wheel with chunky tyres, but you swap them. Okay, so you basically turn this bike into a off-road bike for £400 more. Okay, so you don't have to go and buy another bike. Okay, so clever idea. I'm sure that will appeal to some people simply because it gives them a bit of flexibility then. Okay, so it's called the off-road pack, £395. The other thing to say about this bike is also, maybe you can hear it from the video, but it is actually making some noise, which is not totally unusual, but it's a fact that this is it's got a chain. So this is a chain-driven bike. It's got a 51-tooth sprocket on the back. I bring that up merely because when people look at the likes of Sur-Ron and sort of off-road bikes, one of the big things about Sur-Ron is that you can change things like the sprocket. So on a Sur-Ron, there's a default sprocket of 48 teeth. Then you can increase it to give you essentially more torque. But this one, as far as I know, there isn't any adjustments you can do like that. Obviously, if you did change the sprocket, you'd also have to change the chain. But I haven't actually seen any information about getting sprockets and things like that, or forks, which is another thing that you often get with Sur-Rons. You can actually upgrade a lot of the things, but this bike is pretty much what you see from the static review is basically what you're actually going to be getting. Not a lot of choices in colour either, I have to say, as in no choices in colour. This is the colour, which is black. So what Artisan have done is, as I said, they've managed to get this bike on the OLEV grant with 2 batteries. So it used to be that you would buy this bike with 1 battery, and obviously therefore you'd have less power, obviously less range. But with Artisan doing that, the default configuration of this bike is now the 2 battery version. Okay, which is actually a clever move, because it saves you the 20% on the extra battery. Okay, so the price of this bike with 2 batteries, excluding the off-road pack, is just over 4,400. Okay, which, if you compare it to some of its, well, similar powered bikes, so a TC Max is 4,249 with 1 big battery. A Sur-Ron, again with 1 battery and only 1 battery, with about a 30-mile range, is 4,195 or 4,495 for the road legal version. It is actually a fair price. So on the bike itself, we have 3 power modes. So at the moment I've been just going around in eco mode. I have to say the pickup on the eco mode isn't the greatest. So I've actually just twisted the throttle full back to accelerate. Bearing in mind this, when you put these bikes into different modes, it is actually limiting the power. I wouldn't say it's sprightly from 0 in eco mode. Eco mode will get you to around 30 miles an hour. Okay, so we're doing 29. So as I said, this is a 125cc bike, so it is meant for people who've done the CBT with L plates or an A1 or greater license. But once you get going, it feels like it's quite easy to accelerate further. So there's no issue with keeping up, doing 35 now, and it's all fine. If I put it into sport mode, you can see how easily it picks up. And then in D, which is the intermediate mode, again it's fine. As you can see from the dash, there is a current symbol increasing as I twist the throttle. So this bike also comes with quite a chunky charger, as you probably saw from the static review. It's 15 amp. It's about the size of a shoebox, and cleverly they've enabled you to charge both the batteries off the bike together, again by daisy chaining them, which is the same way that you're actually using the batteries now. Okay, so you could take both the batteries out, one cable goes from the charger to one battery, then you daisy chain the other battery onto it, and then you can charge it from there. 15 amp is pretty powerful for an off-board charger. Super Socco are coming with one for their CPX, which is going to arrive shortly, but most of the other off-board chargers, you don't get many that are, more than 10. So charging time will then be about 7 hours from flat. Okay, so pretty standard really. As you can see, I'm now still doing 38 and I'm still in first, or eco, so that's basically the limit of eco mode. We'll get on another road shortly where we can go faster, so we'll see what happens then. Okay, so we're now stationary onto a road that allows us to do 60. I'm now in sport mode, and we'll see how quickly we get there, and we'll put the time underneath as we do it. So here we go. So as you can see, sport mode is much better at taking off than eco mode. Already at 45. Up to 50. You can hear the noise. Okay, so now we're just full throttle, see how fast we get. Bearing in mind this is a new battery, so the bike has only done 11 miles. You will get better performance after about 3 or 4 charges. So at the moment we're getting to 52 flat out. Okay, so that is as far as it will do. If we tried this in a couple of charges time, you would be pretty sure of getting different performance. But unfortunately that is its top whack. The spec sheet does say that it will do more than that, but I would put that down to the actual newness of the battery. And the fact we do have a bit of a headwind today. You can hear the noise, I hope, so you don't have to worry too much about riding silently on this bike like you might do with others. So that was in sport mode. We'll see what happens now. I'm just dropping it down to drive, or D, and still at 49, so not too much difference between the two modes at the moment. So 3 miles an hour more on D compared to sport mode. As we go over the 316, so it's dropped a couple of miles for going up that incline. That's sort of understandable really, all of these bikes will do that. As I say, you can actually use the modes as a sort of way of actually controlling your speed. If you put it into, you know, economy, you wouldn't be able to do 50 miles anyway. So it's actually quite a useful thing, especially around town when there's so many speed limits around. The brakes on this bike are pretty substantial, both ventilated. You do feel the grip on them. So the only other real things to tell you about this bike at the moment are obviously what you get with it. So not a lot in terms of storage, although there is a little bit of space under the seat. Obviously, as I said, you can ride this bike with just one battery if you accept the performance is going to be less and the range is going to be less as well. But if you do that, you've got essentially a battery's worth of storage. You'll see on the static review how big those batteries are. There is also a slight little bit of space if you have two batteries, but you'll probably just get your phone in it, maybe a disc lock. So your choices are probably rucksack. I wouldn't really think there's a rack option for this bike, to be honest. The servicing is minimal, just as all electric bikes. With this one, you do actually have a little oil tank of about 1/3 of a litre, which you have to check. It will actually tell you after 1,500 kilometres, so about 900 miles, to check that. Keep an eye on it. It does have a dipstick, so you can actually just check that. Obviously, that also suggests that it needs to be changed. So that would be one additional thing that you'd have to do over other electric bikes, or it's the same as any bike that's got a chain. Really, there is an oil component to running these bikes. The rest of it, batteries are sealed units, so they shouldn't be touched at all. In fact, the warranty precludes them from being opened unless by an actual certified dealer. So nothing to do there. The OLEV grant gives you a 3-year warranty on the batteries and a 2-year warranty on the bike. So that is actually a condition of getting the 20% rebate. So you're covered there. We actually don't really sell bikes anymore that are not on the OLEV grant. Because usually that means they're just a 1-year warranty on the whole bike, including the battery. And as the batteries are, almost half the price of well, they're half the price of this bike, and they're typically half the price of a bike, if not more. You want to make sure that you get a good warranty with it. So Artisan have pushed this and the rest of their range through the OLEV grant, which is obviously a good thing. Not something that Sauron have chosen to do, I might add. They are vastly different bikes, I would say. A Sauron is 47 kilos weight and 55 with a battery. This is over twice that weight, but it has got more performance. But I imagine the Sur-Ron purists wouldn't really consider this a bike in the same category. But you know, as I said, it does have off-road capabilities, so there is some element of this bike that is the same. So I think that's given you enough information for this review. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions or want a test ride, then please feel free to let us know, and we can organise that. Any other information is either on our static review or on our website, green-mopeds.com. So thanks very much.